Welcome back to New Persuasive Words. I'm Scott Jones.
Yeah, I'm Bill Bohr.
And Bill, we're here. It's the weekend. All day it's been in my head. It's been everybody's working for the weekend.
Very nice. Yeah.
I don't know why. I did karaoke last night, and I'm thinking of
Loverboy.
Loverboy. Yeah, Loverboy. I was thinking of expanding my karaoke repertoire because I feel like I have some good staples, but I was thinking expanding into Barry Manilow.
Oh wow, yeah, that's always a crowd pleaser.
Copacabana. Nate Winsing.
He's in residency in Vegas. Yeah.
Hey, who doesn't? That people have talked about us getting a residency in Vegas.
Yeah.
We can open up for Celine Dion. No, Celine could open up for us.
Yeah, I think she's on a hiatus because of her health. But I was in Vegas for a couple months ago, and first time, last time. But I did see the Eagles at the Sphere. The Sphere is an amazing venue. Yeah.
Well, bring us out. Bring us out. No job is too big. No fee is too big for us. Bring us out. We're thrilled to do it. And Bill, so big Catholic news this weekend. Notre Dame is opened back up,
which is pretty amazing
for services and for all sorts of manner of things. 5 years ago, massive fire, and one of our great houses of worship in the Western Hemisphere, in any hemisphere really. But there's only two. But I don't know why I'm saying any as if there's like 7 hemispheres. But and it is back functioning. And in other Catholic news, we have the story of a woman in Ndrangheta, Italy. This is Sister Anna Donnelly. She's suspected of mafia collusion and acting as a go-between for the criminal group and its jailed members. She's 57 years old, and she volunteers in Milan's San Vittore prison. And she's suspected. This gives a new. Do you think they're going to call her Godmother Superior?
Yeah, no. She's suspected of being a carrier.
Yeah,
courier.
Yeah, courier. Do you think there's some noble purpose, like, hey, she's due in exchange for some gracious gifts to the parish or the convent?
It's possible, You sometimes if you're working in certain communities. That's one of the things you have to navigate. So we're going to give her.
It's her defense. It's missional.
It's missional. Yeah, I remember one time we were trying to get a house open, a renovation we did in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Chester's, for those of you who don't know, though, it's lovely this time of year. If you're looking to purchase a summer home, like a nice Cape Cod, it's beautiful, right on the Delaware River. It's a lovely vacation
maybe
spot.
A front view, or maybe a back view to Delaware, front view of 95 going through your front yard.
But great proximity to most narcotics that are in the Northeast. Right. If it's available in the Northeast, you can get it in Chester.
Yeah. So periodically, it is the poorest town in Pennsylvania, and anyway, we got involved in helping a family get out of a slum pit apartment and buy their own house. And one of my deacons set the goal that we would do it. We would, from Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve, would get it done. It was crazy. But in budgeting for this project, someone raised the issue, we may not be able to get it inspected unless we bribe someone. So how do you put bribes in a church budget? And so that was under miscellaneous mission.
Miscellaneous mission. I like the M squared. Miscellaneous mission.
And there was a double Christmas Eve miracle. One was that we got it done, and secondly, they didn't make us give them a bribe. They did it out of the goodness of their hearts. So that was pretty remarkable. Yeah, I mean, you can doubt the virgin birth, but man, you want to see a miracle. Getting an inspector on Christmas Eve in Chester, that's a full-blown miracle. Yeah,
this is remarkable. It's totally amazing. And to my friends in Chester, if you're listening, I quote Zora the Gay Blade, great film from 1980. There's no sin in being poor, only dressing poorly.
There we go.
So, Bill, it's another day, another weekend, and Hesketh. Look, Hesketh is still fighting. Hesketh. I'm saying that correctly. Peter Hesketh, right?
Right.
When all else fails, have your mom apologize. I love she's like that dreadful email where she said he's a terrible person and she, all this, she up and down says all these things about him, and then she's like, well, it was a divorce. We all, we've all said things in these proceedings. I had a friend once who said to his family, his brother was an alcoholic, and his brother said, look, it's a Tuesday night. We've all had a lot to drink. And they said, no one's been drinking. So so then the mother is now saying, so this is the model of masculinity. Have your mom lobby the Senate for you.
Very nice. After the mom trashed him. My favorite, I saw a picture, and I don't know, I didn't see a date, of him in his underwear holding an American flag. It was either at the 9/11 memorial or the Vietnam memorial.
Really puts the ass in class.
It does. It really does. So, but yeah, who out there hasn't gone to a sacred site in their underwear with a flag? I mean, come on now.
Certainly, present company included. This is something. But I was thinking, if you had to sit down at your holiday party and you have an opportunity, and you'd have an opportunity to have a Trump cabinet nominee come into your holiday party, which one would it be? Well, who would you want to have a chance, if you had to sit down and spend a few minutes with and just get to know who they are and what they have to say?
How much time do I have? I just should pick one, right?
I mean, this is we're on EST.
How about Rubio? I just go, why? I would just keep asking Rubio, why? You would go with little Marco. Yeah, Rubio, why? Your dad?
I would go with RFK Jr. because I'm getting back into fitness. I used to be a big fitness guy, and I'm getting back into it. And he is in seriously good shape. He's a fitness guru.
Well, the good thing about him, he'd bring game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
it might leave it in your backyard.
Yeah, right. So anyway, no, that's you know what? I want to say to RFK. Why? Just why?
Give a lot of interrogatives for these folks.
Yeah, just why? Yeah.
Is this you? Would you at a Senate hearing? Just why?
Why?
What are we doing?
What? Okay, or maybe how? How did this happen? Anyway, so
there we go. All right. Well, I say, Bill, here for our listeners, we're always trying to keep people abreast of what's going on in the world and ourselves. And
yeah,
there you go. This is fantastic. So we got a really nice message from a listener, which I had missed somehow. This has been several weeks, a couple months, and I came across it as I missed this message we have several accounts. We have this New Persuasive Word. We have many accounts. We have more accounts than Hillary. Our emails are shreddable, the whole thing. So she's a fan of the show, and she wanted to suggest an episode topic that might, her phrase, tap into our pastoral instincts a little. She is in a graduate program in English literature at a West Coast university. And she feels like she's been a little blindsided by the particularly anti-Christian rhetoric and attitude of not just her fellow students, but her professors. And she notes that Christianity, specifically, not other religious faiths, really get blamed for everything. Genocide of indigenous peoples of the Americas, the climate crisis, the creation of racism, capitalism, modern warfare. She doesn't mention this, but I've heard Christianity blamed for the change in the Coke formula in the 80s. Christianity, it's everything. I've heard that it was a Christian who recast Darren in the Bewitched. They switched Darrens. We're responsible for everything. It's basically, she says, any major evil of the last 1,500 years is laid at the feet of the Christian faith. She notes that shamanistic spiritual traditions and polytheism are somehow deemed less genocidal and more environmentally responsible. Not only do they kill less people, the polytheists recycle.
Yeah.
Islam and Judaism are considered more philosophical and mystical. Christianity, she notes, on the other hand, it's just considered bigoted, small-minded, fascistic, and exploitative. And all the arguments that she felt like she's dealt with in her life as a believer, and it sounds like she was raised in a religious home, have targeted all religious faiths, right? So she wasn't in this situation where this is Christianity gets this unique treatment. And she says that she's not out here to just be a rabid evangelist or anything, but she's finding it hard to come up with any arguments other than existential ones, really, that Christianity has been a source of joy and hope in her life. So she would like us to basically, to engage a little bit on this topic. She notes that she's been so allergic to any criticism that she's just having a tough time even reading progressively minded theology books that echo these charges. So here we are, Bill. Let's open the workshop, and here we go.
Yeah. Well, I was a psych major at a secular university, and that was a pretty antagonistic. That may be one of the most antagonistic disciplines towards faith in general.
What about evolutionary biology?
Yeah, that too. I mean, right? Those guys are the same way. Not so much in the physics department, but certainly in the biology department.
MBA is the way to go. If you're looking to coast through without any existential crisis.
Well, a little bit, it sounds like that kind of neo-Marxist critique of whoever is seen to be the power in those who have power are automatically corrupt and evil. I mean, there's for me, I think first of all, having a good historical background to have at least be able to have a fair assessment of things, which I always think is fascinating when Muslims criticize Christians for the Crusades, given how Islam, spread in the around the Mediterranean through conquest as such, and so have
scimitar will travel.
Yeah, so I mean, understanding, this idea of our separation of religion and politics and things like that is just a modern idea. So to try to understand things in their context, and I've always tried to be honest about what has been done wrong in the name of Christianity. I guess you and I've talked about this before. We're both a little. I mean, in many ways, we kind of do apologetics in a soft way, but one of the things I just tried to do when I was in a hostile academic situation, like Princeton Theological Seminary. I'm just kidding.
What's a non-hostile academic situation?
Yeah, right. Hostile. Yeah, I know. I like Princeton.
Hillsdale College.
Very, very
Hillsdale College.
There's a lot of hostility coming out of there, man. A lot of anger over that place. No, I think in my secular education, first of all, just trying to be a good student. In other words, doing my discipline. And I found that that I had kind of won professors' respect because I was achieving in their classes. And then
what do they say in the book of Daniel? Right, Daniel had a spirit of excellence.
Right. So
do your homework.
Yeah, and I think even like and again, I mean, I had critical. The higher critical method actually has been very helpful for me in my faith, but being able to be kind of open-minded. In other words, I used to do a class sometimes with our seniors in high school getting ready to go to college, and one of the things we would do is, okay, if you're just get in a habit, if you're taking notes, is this true? What are their presuppositions? Why what makes them think their presuppositions are true? Just kind of asking some root causes, because I think there's a lot of bad history that's done, bad philosophy that's done in different kinds of classes. And not that there isn't plenty of room to criticize Christianity, But I think I remember reading Rowan Williams' book in response to Dawkins, and his Dawkins, the atheist. What was Dawkins' book? The Atheist,
The God Delusion.
The God Delusion. And at the end, Rowan Williams, first thing he says, "I don't believe in the God he's talking about either."
Right. That's a lot of people have said that. Like N.T. Wright often said that. It said in counseling sessions, he said, tell me the God you don't believe in, because I probably don't believe in that God either.
Yeah. So
N.T. Wright's fond of calling the spy in the sky theology.
Yeah.
That, there's just somebody that sees everything and wants you to make sure you're having no fun.
And particularly like right now, when a certain brand of Christianity is, feeling very triumphalistic and who are associated with some things that, many of us find not only theologically problematic, well, not only politically problematic, but on a deeper level, theologically very problematic, which is to me the more important. And so I understand there's this hostility. And
so am I returning your Trump Bible for Christmas? Because I got one, because I thought it'd be a collector's item.
Although, you know what, I do need a new doorstop. So that would be, although some people would say that would be sacrilegious, losing a Trump Bible as a doorstop.
I think you would. I mean, wouldn't you? What kind of message is that? If the first thing they saw
was
at your door was the Trump Bible,
that the door is open. Behold, I'm knocking. Trump is knocking on the door. Are we going to let him in or not?
He might be knocking on the door.
But they let him. No, America let him in. So we'll see. No,
but that's like that's how vampires get in too. You have to invite them in.
Invite them in. So I guess my first thing would be is to try to not necessarily feeling the need to defend yourself and realizing. I mean, I even remember at certain classes, intuitively, I do this thing. It just felt what they were saying was wrong, but I didn't know enough to know why they were wrong or why I felt they were wrong. So that just, I have found an antagonism to the faith, that and serious, that it is serious, or at least, a lot of college and graduate school pseudo intellectual anyway. But regardless, I find if somebody is hitting a vulnerable spot in my worldview or my theological worldview, then that makes me need to go back and look at it. So I find, particularly in graduate school, I mean, you're in such a vulnerable position in graduate school. I don't think that's in the classroom necessarily is the place to take a stand. I even like when I was teaching seminary, when a student decided that it was their job to take a stand against me, and I go, I'm just trying to get through the 4th century. Come on, let's just if you want to talk about that, take that to your theology professor. But still, that would be my.
I'm surprised they never made like a Dead Poets Society movie about you.
No,
just trying to get through the 4th century. What do you want from me?
Right, that's right. Well, particularly since I was doing a century a night, a century a day, and these poor people already were overwhelmed. No, so I think sometimes look, it's a time to go deeper, right? It's time to look into, there are seasons in your life where you have to become more internal, and I think graduate school, we talk about graduate students regressing a bit. Partially why you regress when you're in graduate school is because you're giving up some control. You're giving up some autonomy. So I think one of them would be to try to just, my first advice would be, let this be an opportunity for you to learn more about your faith.
I took a stand once in graduate in a seminar. Everybody was decrying fundamentalists or something, and I said, explain to me just some basic science from sort of macroevolution and all this stuff. I said, you can't do it. Nobody here can do it. I said, it's okay. I don't mind. Why? But why do you believe it? Because the priests tell you, right? The people in the White Coast, in the science lab, and and what happens if you deny it? Then you go see the bishop. Who's the bishop? The dean, and then you get excommunicated.
Right.
Then you'll be at Wilfrid Beauty Academy or something, right? I mean, this is, but we've talked about this in many episodes, and our listener probably knows some of them where we've talked about Leslie and soft presuppositionalism and these sorts of things. But oftentimes, I think secular critics often aren't aware of their own presupposition, their own baggage. And also, I'd want to say a couple things specific to this problem.
Yeah.
One is well, I'll try to keep it as a whole. I remember I've said this on the podcast before. When I had the chance to sit and talk with Jensen, I was like, "Hey, Jens, what's the deal with evil?" I said, "Hey, what's the deal with evil?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, because God wants to have a history." I was like, "Well, why does he need a history?" He says, "Because he wants to include you." And that is interesting. I've thought about that a lot, about the necessity of complexiness, messiness, even sin, because for some reason, God is more glorified. It's a beautiful, better story, including us and including our redemption, or including our own brokenness. That somehow we know more of the love of God. We know more of the majesty of God. We know more of the beauty of God when we're brought back into the fold, when we're the prodigal with the lost sheep, or the prodigals. This capacity to relate to God in this way is somehow a more beautiful and fitting way, and a better story, because he wants to include people like us that are real and capable of love and freedom and messiness and complexity and particularity. So I think that's part of it, right? I think that we live in a world where all institutions, all traditions are flawed and broken and on the way and struggling and sometimes downright disobedient and evil at times. But also, I think Christianity also has an internal response to this.
Right.
We have an understanding of original sin, especially, well, at least in the West. But Henri Blocher wrote a great book on this called "Illuminating the Riddle," great French theologian, and he makes a good case that for original sin really being in the Hebrew Bible. It's an interesting exegetical case. But by and large, we have this sense in the Christian tradition, especially in the West, but it's universal in the Christian tradition, that things are broken, things are bent, and that the church is not an original sin free zone. It's not some place where all of a sudden the powers of redemption are so comprehensive and miraculous that you don't find sinners, right? I mean, show me the perfect church. Don't go to it, because you'll ruin it. It doesn't exist. And so partially, I think this critique of Christianity is we have a built-in, we'd expect that, right? We expect that, I had a professor once said, as a Calvinist, I repent not just of my vices, but of my virtues. And the idea was that my best moments, I'm a mixed bag and I have mixed motives and I'm a problematic person. So I think that's part of the defense of the faith in this regard, is we don't expect that we're better. We don't expect that we're somehow more evolved. We don't expect that we don't exclude ourselves from the table of sinners, or our religious interlocutors from the fellowship of humanity. We're all cut of this cloth. This is where this trite phrases are popular for a reason. This bumper sticker, Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven. There's something to that.
Yeah. And by the way, we in no way are we discouraging Calvinists from trying to be virtuous. So
no. I don't know. Sometimes Calvinists should keep their virtues to themselves.
Well, then they're not really virtues, are they?
No, I don't know. Yeah.
No. I went
to an Episcopal church and I told them, they were like, "Oh, tell us about yourself. You're in spiritual." I said, "I'm a dour superlapsarian Calvinist." Bill, I know how to make friends at cocktail parties. I'll tell you.
Very good. Yeah. Like me being professor of the month. Yeah. But I think related to that is, and again, it's not trite, but it's very basic and very Jesus. We are called to love our enemies, and most of us don't go out looking for enemies. Okay. I don't do that anymore. I used to practice that. I try not to do that anymore. It doesn't work out well, but no, but I think people, for whatever reason, are threatened by your faith or oppositional to your faith. They have made themselves an enemy of yours, and it may not even be personal. It just may be against anything Christian or whatever. And I don't, who knows why people do that for 100 different reasons. Sometimes it's very personal. Almost always it's personal, but for some reason. But there's a sense where praying for the people, praying for your professors, praying for the antagonistic students. I remember in graduate school, one of my favorite people was this atheist. She's brilliant, an atheist, 19th century. It was philosophy. I don't remember what. She's either philosophy or some sort of critical theory. And I think our first conversation was kind of something, I don't know, antagonistic, because she found out I was in the theology or in the church history department. But I really found that was my favorite lunch partner. And again, I'm not saying that's ever going to happen for you, but I found that this person challenged me, but made me think. But then I remember just starting praying for this person, not for any kind of not with any telos in mind, but that just Lord help me be right with this person. Help me be the right kind of person to this. Help me not speak out of insecurities or try our power. Let me just be genuine. And I think, that puts you in a different position, because when you're loving your enemies, you're no longer feeling antagonistic about them. Eventually that's something that can happen. So I think, sometimes we get caught into we think we're arguing about one thing. We do this in relationships, right? We almost always argue about the thing that we're not really upset about. And I think sometimes when people come in with a full antagonism towards Christianity, there's other stuff going on. And I think we have to be, it's okay that, it probably is causing some doubt for you. I remember being in a very similar situation, but doubt is part of the faith process. And, sometimes there are things in our faith that needs to die. And sometimes they raise legitimate questions. Sometimes even if it's a fallacy that they're attacking, the whole process of listening can help us have a deeper understanding of our own faith. I've found that to be the case again and again in my life, learning more from critics, whether they be in real time or whether they be historical, philosophical opponents. I learn from them all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this. Our recent nominee for the Secretary of Education has made me think about a crisis of faith when I found out professional wrestling wasn't real. that bill, this is not easy for someone like me to go on. But I made it, and today, I'm interacting with you, and despite that, and I'm ready to embrace the new policies of someone who has celebrated history in a sport or form of theatrics.
Yeah, there we go.
that I love. So that is there you go.
Yeah. The other thing is, thank you for that. That was
really, these are the things.
I think we should we need I feel like that now needs to apologize to people like that.
What people need to do is Google the video of Linda McMahon where she's body slammed.
We are now, thank you for the answer. We are now all that much more stupid. May God have mercy on your soul.
Well, the Secretary of Education is going to fix all that, Phil.
Yeah, there we go.
We're going to be smarter by the moment.
What Adam Sandler movie is that from? I can't remember that. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, but so getting back to the serious nature. I mean, I don't know that any faith that's worth having doesn't go through serious times of challenge, and sometimes the challenge is existential when you're suffering or someone you love suffering, or you have to deal with. I had a friend who had to go live with chronic pain. That was a real challenge to her faith because she never, most days she didn't feel well, and it's hard to say your prayers when you're not feeling well. When you're in a lot of pain, it's really hard to say your prayers. And sometimes those, the challenge to the faith are, intellectual ones. What do I do? How do I wrap I remember, an issue I started working on in seminary. It took me 10 years or so before I came to a place where I had peace. I'm not saying I solved it, but where I felt like, okay, this is not this isn't like a constant existential, pebble in my shoe that is constantly bothering me. I feel like I came at peace, but it was a 10-year struggle to do that. And so, but the struggle had a lot, the struggle probably was more important than coming to an ultimate resolution. And, I don't mean I think that's the things, these are the exercises of life, of the soul and of the mind that God builds himself in us, right? I was reading Meister Eckhart's sermon again about allowing the word to be born in you. Mary's yes was a pretty dramatic yes that totally ruined her life in so many ways. And yet it also was, she was full of grace and blessed among all women. So allowing God to be born in you sometimes being born is a very painful and hard process.
Should we close with the great wisdom of Tomas Halik here? Jesus is the answer, he says. We read on banners of charismatic evangelicals. Yes, but it is the second answer. Only the Jesus who endured the silence of death, which was the first immediate answer to that harrowing question on the cross, can become the answer to the questions of those who have touched the darkness of Good Friday. Young mentioned somewhere the indigenous tribes of primitives still living an ancient way of life reconciled with nature and original human nature, distinguish between small or private dreams and big dreams that are of significance for the entire tribe. I've always thought of Nietzsche's scene with the herald of God's death in the gay signs as the record of a dream, but a big dream with prophetic significance for our entire tribe. At the same time, I felt that the message God is dead is only the first sentence, which must be followed by another, a second sentence, in the same way that Good Friday was an important message to us from God. But it was not the final one. God is dead, that sentence uttered at the end of the 19th century, continued to fascinate for the next 100 years. Maybe it was not only a sentence about God and against God, but also one containing something of God's message to us. A God who has not endured death is not truly living. A faith that does not undergo Good Friday cannot attain the fullness of Easter. Crises of faith, both personal and in the histories of culture, are an important part of the history of faith, of our communication with God, who is concealed and returns again to those who do not stop waiting for the unique and eternal word to speak to them once more.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everybody.
I did want to just add one thing, too. I mean, in all seriousness, we certainly are available for off the air conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And because, we do know over the years, we've had many graduate students and folks who this has been a space where people, it's safe to question, but also hopefully some different ways to think. So, we take that as a sacred trust. So please do not hesitate to reach out to either of us. And hope everyone has a blessed Advent too, starting tomorrow.
Blessings, everybody.